Hello class, Mr. Greg here, and I hope you're doing well. This week's homework was for you to design a face shield for our medical and first responders to help protect them from this terrible virus that's going about. And I sent you a picture of one that someone else had designed as a reference to help get you started. And I hope you've taken a look at that and given it a good attempt. Now, I know that this was a difficult assignment, and so what I thought I would do today was help you get started. If you started and just hadn't been able to get where you needed to get to, then maybe this will help you get started, and then you can finish it up and make it your own and make better improvements. And so the first thing we need to do when we're designing something is to try to get just a concept in our mind of how you want to lay it out. You remember in the first day of class, I told you one of the more difficult things about computer-aided design was getting that concept of spatialness, the X, Y, and Z axis that everything 3 dimensions has, and putting that on a 2-dimensional screen so that it makes sense and that it's relational to what you're trying to design. And so I always find it useful to just try to draw it out, maybe look around. In this case, I took a look at some of the headbands that we had around the house that some of the girls used to keep their hair up, and just to get an idea of the size and shape that best works on a person. And so after doing that, then I just drew it out on a piece of paper, and so that's what we're going to do now. And so I'm going to switch our view here. Let's see, make that go away. Switch our view to my hand. So just looking at a headband, the typical shape of one is something like this. Right? I mean, that's about as basic as you can get as a headband, and we actually have a few like this. I noticed that a lot of them have this straight edge here, and then it goes into a circular pattern and then comes back to a straight edge. Some of them can be flared out a little bit. Some of them can have a little curve or taper in right here to help hold it on your head. It just depends. And so I said, well, that would be a good basic design. Now, this isn't all my original design. I used the design of the picture to help me out, and just like I want you to also. And I noticed in that picture that the face shield was out away from the face of the wearer. And so there was an inner loop like this that actually fit against the person's head. And then the face shield mounted out here. And I noticed that there was a little bit of flare on each end to kind of help keep the face shield away from the sides of a person's face, so it wouldn't aggravate them, be annoying, whatever. And then of course I saw there needed to be some sort of attachment on each end for a strap. And so that's the basic idea. And so let's see how we can do on Solidworks getting this designed. So I'm going to open up Solidworks here. Bear with me a second to get that done. So now that I've got that pulled up, I'm going to get this where you can see it. Make it as large as possible here. All right, first thing we need to do is open up a sketch. I'm going to use the top plane because this thing's going to be relatively flat. And so when I get ready to 3D print it, I won't have to make a lot of adjustments on the printing plane. All right, so the first thing, if you remember, is that we've got to have that curved front. And so I think I'm going to draw that first. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to just start with a circle. So I'm going to take the circle here, and I'm just going to get right on my origin, and I'm going to draw a circle like this. And I'm going to dimension that circle, and I'm going to make it 165 millimeters. And I've based that on some measurements that I made earlier on some of my examples that we were using. All right, so now we've got to start here. Next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and put a center line down the middle of this in case I want to do any kind of mirroring. I always like to go ahead and draw this, make sure it is vertical, and it is. And then I'm going to go ahead and make this center to center like that. All right, so this face shield has to have some thickness to it, obviously. And so probably the quickest way of doing that is to use a function that we learned last week, and that's offset entities here. And this is, I hope you're keeping up with the lessons because they build on each other. And if you get too far behind, it's going to be difficult for you to continue to grow. And the key to SolidWorks or any CAD program is really just doing different drawings over and over until you get better and better at it. And you'll get faster. So I encourage you to keep at it. All right, so I'm going to click Offset Entities. I want this to be about 3 millimeters thick, so I enter it here. This is the entity I want to offset. Lights up, yellow. Click the check mark, and now I've got the beginnings of my face shield. Let's see, the next thing I'm going to do is draw a horizontal construction line, because I know I'm going to need that too. I'm going to need several references on this to make sure it's horizontal. Click on that. Center point, relation, coincidence. I like it. It's all black. That's a good sign. All right. And now I want to draw those sides, and I'm going to draw those from my construction line. So I'm going to use a rectangle to do that. So I'm just going to come up here to this point. In fact, I'll make this bigger so you can see this. To this point, and this is where I'm going to begin my rectangle, and I'm going to draw it down. Oops. So here to here and down. Don't worry about the length right now. We're gonna measure that, dimension it. So I've got that. Click OK. Click Smart Dimension. And I want this to be 75. Again, that's based on some measurements I did. That looks pretty good, and I need to make it 3 millimeters thick, and it is. Anticipating that. So that looks pretty good. Click on my dimension, and I'm just going to mirror this. I'm going to go up here to Mirror Entities. We've done this before. Click on it. Instead of highlighting this, because I don't want it to accidentally pick up some of these others, I'm just going to click on the lines. I have 4 sides, so I should have 4 lines, right? right here, you can check it. And then to mirror about, I'm going to mirror about this line. Look, it looks pretty good. So I'm going to click OK. I'm fully defined. It's looking pretty good there. All right, so I noticed that there was that inner headband, and so I'm going to need to draw that, and I'm going to use a new function that we haven't learned before called an arc. And so the way the arc works is you will put down each side of the arc, and then you'll go back to the middle, and you'll raise it up to the point where you want it to rest. And since I want it to rest somewhere in here, I need to go ahead and define that now. And so I'm going to draw another construction line. Come to here, line. I'm just going to come up here and guess for now. Make it come across like this. And again, I want my center to shift, holding the button, shift, click on the line. See, I got line and the point, and I want them to coincide. There it is. Now, I want it to be about 35 millimeters from here to here. Well, if this is 165 total, half of that is roughly 82 and a half. So we'll just say 83. It didn't have to be that precise. So I want this dimension here to be 83 minus 35. And so I'm going to hit Smart Dimension, and I want to show you something. Click here, here, click on that. And you can actually do math in here. So if it's 83 minus 35, for example, I get 48. So it actually calculates that dimension for me. And so now I've got that line exactly where I want it to be. And see, I'm going to go ahead and trim my circle out right here. This is another function that we haven't talked about. It's called trim entities, and you'll see it up here. You may have had to use this already. Probably should have taught you this early on, but I'm going to click on it here. And I want to clean this up because obviously I don't want this part to be part of my drawing. So when I click on this, I can tell you it's going to give me an error. And that's because I have drawn a circle and then I've cut part of it out, and it's saying, well, obviously you can't have a circle with a partial missing. So you got to kind of work through that. And so I'm going to do that now. See how I get this error? But I know that my sketch is correct, so I'm going to click here. The way this works, trim entities, you just hold your left button down and drag through the thing it wants to be, and it'll go to the next part. So actually I want to trim this out too here, and I want to trim this out here also. So all right, now let's see what we have here. Oops, wrong button. Let's see, it's not liking this dimension here, so I'm going to right click on it and delete it, and now I am fully defined, as you can see here. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and see if it'll let me trim this part right here. Go ahead and get this out of the way. Whoop, whoop. Fracking. Didn't mean to do that. I'm going to just grab that dot and pull it back up there. All right, so you should have something that looks pretty similar to this. And now I want to make that inner loop. And so I'm going to use something we haven't used before, and that is the center point, or the arc. I'm not going to use the center point one. I'm actually going to use the 3-point arc. It looks like this. All right, and the way this works, I want to start my arc at the midpoint down here of my rectangle. I'm going to left click the button, hold it down. I'm going to come over here. Oh, escape. Somehow in all that I managed to get the wrong one, or not press it, throw on my instruction. All right, I'm going to midpoint here all the way to the midpoint here. Let loose of the left button, come up to the center, press the left button back down and hold it until I go up to the line that we made, like that. And then I'm going to, I could offset this, but I like to think I have more control if I go back over to here and go straight across, left click, make that smaller so you can see it, come down to this side, let loose of my left button, come to the center, hold the left button down and come up above where I was before. And now I have my inner arc. So I want to make sure that this thing is centered properly. So I'm going to just make sure I'm coincidence. And you see when you get that symbol, your mouse, that means it is. Same with this one. All right. Very good. And then I want these to be 3 millimeters apart. And so probably the best way to do that is it's probably going to be to define the radius of these arcs. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to Smart Dimension, and I'm going to click on this outer one, and I'm just going to let it radius whatever it is. I'm not going to worry about moving it. And then I'll do the same on the inner one. Probably end up coming back and taking it out, but there we go. All right. So I'm fully defined, and I like that where it is. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. All right, Smart Dimension. Oops. Trim entities. Trim. It's going to let me do it. Here and here. And the same for this side. Here and here. We may. All right. So you can, yours is probably blue like mine. And the issue with that is the relations. And so if you'll click on this dot here, hold your shift key down, click on the center dot here, hold your shift key down and click on this dot, which is the one above, and you want them all to be horizontal. Nope, you don't. I clicked on the wrong one somewhere. So obviously I have a problem here. So let's see, I definitely do not want to do that. So I'm going to click over here and I'm going to hit delete. That's going to take that out. And sometimes it's difficult to figure out why this won't define. And so you can actually grab the blue line and move it, and then that tells me I haven't fixed it to this line. I thought I had, but it's fixed to this line, but it's not fixed to this line. And so I need to create a relation. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click on this. Actually, I'm going to escape from that. I'm going to click on this center point up here, and then I'm going to click on my construction line, and I'm going to make them coincidence. There we go. So now, I don't know why this little line is here, but it's not part of my drawing. So now I have the beginnings of what looks like a face shield. Fully defined. That's pretty good. So we need to create a bracket that the face shield can rest on, and so that it'll keep it out of the sides of the face of the wearer. And I noticed in the picture that they had put some little flares on each end to help do that. And so I want to draw those by using an arc again. And basically I'm going to use 2 arcs, and I think I'm going to have it start from this center point line, and I can move it if I need to. But the way I'm going to draw these, I'm going to come up here, I'll do my 3-point arc. I'm just going to start somewhere right in here, and I know I want it to end over here, so I'm just going to drop it there, and I'm going to come up to the middle. And since this is going to be the inside part, I'm going to lay it right there on top of that. Oops, upside down. That was cool. It'd be good to do that. Try that again. Here to here. I'm going to come up to here, and I'm going to lay it right there. All right, and then I'm going to draw another one from here to the outside here. I'm going to come up and I'm going to coincide it with that one, like that. So that doesn't look very good, but I think we can make it look good. All right, I like both those arcs. First thing I want them to be is roughly 6 millimeters from here to here. And so I'm going to dimension that. Do it on this side. Look there, I almost drew it perfect. 6. And then I want it to be 3 millimeters thick, like the rest of my face shield. I'm going to do the same on this side. Wow, really close there. Not so close here. Oops. Three. Like that. All right. Okay. So that looks pretty good. All right. This, I can tell you, it's going to be a weak point in a 3D print. And so I want to close in this part here, and I'm just going to do that with an arc here. An arc's a lot stronger than a straight line would be, and we want this to be as strong as possible so it lasts as long as possible. So I'm going to come up here, go to my 3-point arc, and You know what? I'm going to back out of that because I want to figure out where I want to put this. I think I'm going to put it, I think I'm going to make it right around 19 degrees. So I'm going to draw a construction line from my origin out like this. I'm going to dimension that 19 degrees, and that was from a measurement I made earlier. Yeah. So I'll just mirror this. Gonna mirror that. Mirror about my center line. I like it. Done. Fast. Now I know where I can put my arc. Come up here, 3-point arc. I'm just going to touch this line, come around, touch this line. Hope you can see that. And then I'm just going to pull it up, really eyeball it like that. My center line is there. And I'm going to dimension that. I'm just going to make it the dimension that it is. Seems to like it. So I'm going to mirror it. I'm going to click on that to be mirrored. I'm going to mirror across my center line. Oops, not mirror line one. Mirror across my center line. There it is. There it is. All right, so only thing left to do is clean it up a little bit and extrude it until I have a problem here. Better close this in. There. Guess I could have mirrored that there. So some of you have already turned in your designs. You did a pretty good job of building this, but it was a lot thicker. And this loses flexibility the thicker you make it. And so you really only need to make it about 3 millimeters thick. That'll be plenty strong for what it has to do, and that way it'll remain flexible. So everybody's head's a little bit different, and so it'll expand to fit the person's head as necessary. So we just need to clean this up. Hopefully that'll go smoother than our other ones. Let's see here. We want to use the outside, so I'm going to clean that up. Clean that up. Come on. Clean that up. Oh, I made a mistake. Let's back up, undo. Yeah. All right, let's do this differently. Trim entities. Clean that up. Clean that up. There we go. Looks pretty good. Do the same thing on this side. Just take your time. All right, so we've got a dimension issue here now that I've cut that off, and so I'm just going to press on it, dimension it whatever it is. Now we're looking pretty good there. All right, so let's see if we can extrude it. Extrude 15. Now because there's so many different components and curves. Solidworks isn't sure how to extrude it, and so you have to come through here and actually identify what needs to be extruded. Nope, I want the inside. The inside. Like that. Ah! Got an error, rebuild error. I got a line somewhere. So let's figure that out. Better not be this line, because I don't know why it asked me why it has that line. I'm going to try to get rid of it. That is not a line. Closed in there, closed in there. Closed, closed, closed. So I got to looking at this to figure out what was going on, and it was showing me this blue here, and so that told me that it must be a problem here. So I zoomed in real close, and I've actually got a little bit of overlap from my drawing, so I'm going to trim this off. I'm going to trim that little line off there. See if I got one here too. Yeah. So I'm going to trim this one, trim the inside one. I don't know if it matters. It'll tell me if it does. So I probably have the same problem on the other side. Not there. So that looks pretty good, and then I need to redimension this because it was using that line as a reference. All right. Now let's see. So we definitely want this to be fully defined, and so if I look at this blue arc, and yeah, I need to fix it to this line. I can do that by smart dimensioning it. So I'm going to come up here, click on that arc, click on my construction line, and I want that to be 3 millimeters, like that. And then I want it to click on that. I want to make sure that these, the bottom of it is horizontal with each other. So hold the shift key down, click on this dot, keep it held down, click on this dot. Yep, that was it. So now let's see if it likes it. Features, extruded. I'm going to go 15. Click. Uh-oh, still got a problem. An open contour. Get out of here. Oh, right here. Sure do, don't I? Cancel. Cancel. I don't know if that's it or not. It don't act like it is. Merge. I don't know if that's it or not. Let's try. Oh. Other problem was I didn't highlight it. Ah! There we go. Probably didn't need to make that fix. That's pretty good, except for I want it to be 15, so I'm going to come up here and open it back up. Make it 15. Like that. A little bit thicker. Alright, so your homework for next week is to add places for the strap, the flexible strap, and add some than to hold the face shield on in the front here. And I'm looking for some creative designs. And then also we need to cover this area up because it's going to allow potential contamination inside the face shield. And so I'm looking for your design on how to cover this up, but you still have to keep this flexible. So that means you just can't fill this in with material because then it won't be flexible and it won't be comfortable to wear. So that's your assignment for next week. So draw your headband to here and then start adding mounting apparatus. Make this look a lot better, more comfortable, and then find a way to fill in this gap. And I'll be sending that out shortly.